What's up, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to take this failed print and turn it into this. But first, let's hit that intro. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for sticking around. Today we're really just going to work on this Throne of Boba Fett. It was a failed print that I actually had, and it completely printed and just had, as you can see, one section that really just failed hard. There's nothing worse than having a print run all day and realizing that it has a hole through it. And a lot of them I'll actually try to salvage in different ways. This is just one of the various ways. Since this is kind of a building material, it's pretty easy. I'm just going to take a wine cork here and I'm going to shape it to the hole. I'm going to super glue it in, and then I'll kind of show you the steps I take from there to texture it, and then we'll actually paint this piece up. And I hope you guys enjoy. All I'm doing here is a pretty straightforward process. I'm just cutting the excess cork, but I'm actually not cutting it away. I'm just cutting slits at different angles and then tearing the cork away. It gives it kind of that rough edge look, like it was, you know, the edge of the throne was slowly breaking away. And really the important thing to remember here is when you're tearing this away, you want to make sure that you're tearing away more material than what would actually be there. And you'll see here kind of in this next step is I'm going to use the natural angles to kind of map out where the lines should lie, or where the edges should line up, and then make sure I'm tearing past that point, right? Because it can't be broken but larger than the other side. So this is kind of just a real important part of making sure the aesthetics look correct and it's appealing to the eye. Because if that looks larger than the other side, immediately our eyes are going to be distracted by that big chunk that's ripped out. All I'm doing here is putting some Mod Podge on the cork to essentially seal it, and then also kind of create a layer over there, that super glue edge, kind of feather the edges together. Just make it look like one piece. Next, we're just going to hit it with a little of our shade. Just going to create some depth. And really, I'm just going to mop this everywhere. I'm going to try to cover this whole model. But I'm going to do it in a strategic way. And what I mean is, you'll see in a second, is I'm actually going to let the wash pool up. And then I'm going to remove it with either the brush or a paper towel to create kind of water ring looks. And turn this throne into kind of a stone look instead of just one color. And as you can see, you can kind of dictate how big of the water rings you want and how little. The longer you let it sit there, the more it dries, so the thicker those outer rings will look. Really right here, we're just going for tonal separation, creating a bunch of different tones, and that's really what we're going to be doing throughout the rest of the video. Adding some highlights, some midtones. We're going to add some weathered effects. And welcome to what I like to call the fugly stage. So this is kind of, we're just going to work up from here. At one point, in anything that you're painting, there's going to come a point where it just looks really ugly and you don't know what direction to go. You just have to stay committed to whether your source material, if you're looking at something, or to the idea that you have in your head. Really here, we're just going to take a lighter brown and we're going to work our way up. Gonna create some weathered where I think wind would blow and scratch across the surface, where the sun would hit. You know, the tricky thing with kind of yellow sandy colors is there's not really much you can do with it. The desert's just kind of dry and yellow, and that's it. So slow and steady, we're going to work our way up, and we'll actually go on the complete opposite, where before it looked ugly and dirty, now it's going to look ugly and bright. And we'll bring it back down. All we're doing here is we're just creating the glaze, adding a little bit of paint and a lot more water. We're going to stir it up, and we're going to go for a consistency that is thin enough that when I paint it on my fingernail, you can see the tint, but you can still see through your fingernail. And as you can see, I just keep testing it, and that right there is exactly what we want. If there's too much paint in there, you're just literally painting over all the work you've done. If there's too much water in there, it's just going to kind of run off and pool and make a wet mess. So apply thin. Just do one coat. You don't want to overdo it. So right now, pretty much what we're doing is repeating the previous step, but I've added in some pigment. And what this pigment is, it's going to create kind of a textured look. It's, you know, with the intention of having buildup along the bottom of the model. And I'm just going to keep working that back and forth and slowly kind of work the wetter spot of it up so it looks like it was running down or splashing up. Just a more realistic looking effect without being too drastic. With this even more thinned down glaze, I'm just feathering in the blends between where that kind of soot look meets the actual paint that we laid down initially. So now we're gonna give a little green tone to the skull. After going back and kind of rewatching the episode, I realized that it had a little green hue to it. So I'm gonna add this on, and then I'm actually gonna take a wet brush and remove the majority of it because I just want it to have that worn look. Then I'm gonna reapply my wash. This isn't thinned down or anything. This is straight out of the bottle. This was by far the funnest part of this whole build, was just getting to take this pigment and kind of dry brush it in all the corners. Satisfying kind of seeing it all come together. I'm really just hitting every edge and corner that I think the dirt would collect. On the sides here, I'm just kind of brushing it in where maybe water would run off or spill down the side multiple times. And just kind of bringing the piece all together. And after that, I'm just going to spray it in a matte varnish to seal it all in, and that's it. I appreciate you guys watching the video. Remember to subscribe, like, ring that bell notification, and most of all, take care of yourselves and each other. Peace and love.